You know, the president of our HOA. Let's call her Cassandra Thorne. She tried to steal my lake access, not once, not twice, but 3 times before she finally figured out she was messing with a retired land surveyor. A guy who'd spent 35 years defining exactly where one man's land ends and another's begins, right down to the decimal point. The first time, she sent a smug lawyer with a nasty letter. The second time, she somehow got the county to issue me a fake violation notice. But the third time, she actually sent an $80,000 bulldozer onto my beachfront to break ground for a dock she had absolutely no right to build. And that's when I finally called the sheriff. My name is Frank Davison. I'm 63 now. And when Cassandra stood there screaming from 200 yards away, her face the color of a cheap Cabernet, yelling that my beach was community property, I didn't even bother to argue. I just smiled, gave a little nod, and realized I had everything I needed to end her reign, because for 6 months, I'd been waiting for her to make that exact mistake. I bought this little slice of heaven, 2.5 acres on Whisperwood Lake, back in 1996. It was nothing then, just trees and dirt roads, but I paid cash, $35,000, and it was the dream retreat for my late wife, Martha, and me. Over the years, a massive developer bought up all the surrounding ridgeline, carved it into 250 tiny lots, and created the preserve at Whisperwood, this fancy, gated HOA community. Nice houses, lake views, but here's the kicker. Every single one of those lots ended 60 feet above the water line at the ridge. My property, my 2.5 acres, was the only one that actually touched the lake, the only one with a deeded access road down to the water that I built myself back in '99. After Martha passed, I finally built our cabin in 2022. I wasn't looking for trouble. I was looking for quiet mornings with coffee and fishing. So when Cassandra, wearing her signature pastel cardigan and holding a lukewarm zucchini casserole, first knocked on my door last spring, I listened politely. She was the HOA president, all fake charm and eyes that didn't quite match her smile. She told me how wonderful the community was, all their precious traditions, and then she got right to it. Frank, the previous owner, was so generous about letting families use the beach through this property. I'm sure you'll want to continue that wonderful tradition. And I said, sure, keep it reasonable. No big parties, pick up your trash. I thought I was being a good neighbor. What I didn't know was that Cassandra wasn't asking for a favor. She was confirming a lie she'd been selling for a decade. See, Cassandra was also the top real estate agent for the preserve, and her sales brochures, I found this out later, guaranteed every home came with exclusive community lake access. She'd built her entire business on my land, literally. For a few months, it was fine. Kids swam. I waved from the porch, peace and quiet. But in November, I walked down to the clubhouse to drop off my dues and saw the architectural renderings taped to the window. A massive 2-tier dock with a pavilion, composite decking, estimated cost $80,000. Right on my beachfront. I went home, pulled out my survey, the one I drew myself 28 years ago, and there was no question they were building on my land. I called Cassandra the next morning, keeping my voice level, maybe a little too calm. Cassandra, did anyone from the HOA ask my permission to build that? There was this brittle little laugh, almost a nervous cough. Permission, Frank? We don't need permission. That's community property. That's when the switch flipped for me. No, I said it's not. Show me the recorded easement, the legal document that grants the HOA rights to my property. The silence was heavy, thick. I don't think we have anything like that, she stammered. Then the voice hardened, cold as concrete. We will proceed as planned, Frank. This is for the good of the community. And she hung up. I immediately called my attorney, an old friend named Veronica Diaz. Veronica specializes in property law, and when I told her what was happening, she chuckled. Frank, you have what we call a slam dunk, but HOAs are vicious. They have money, they have lawyers on retainer, and they hate losing. Get ready for ugly. She told me the key was prescriptive easement. If someone uses your land openly for too long, they can gain a legal right. But she pointed out 2 major flaws in their argument. First, the state required 20 years, and the preserve had only existed for 18. Second, and this was the killer, I had given them permission, which immediately voids the requirement that the use must be adverse, meaning without my consent. I spent the next month preparing, like a sniper setting up a perch. I bought a hunter's trail camera, motion-activated, time-stamped, and night vision, and mounted it strategically. I emailed the entire HOA board, attaching my survey and my deed, explicitly stating, I do not consent to construction on my property. Any entry is trespassing. Cassandra's reply came back 45 minutes later, pure venom. You're being selfish. 250 families depend on that access. We have a contract. We are proceeding. Gold, pure gold, Veronica told me. She just admitted in writing to willful trespass. The camera rolled, capturing dozens of unaware families crossing my boundary. On January 15th, the day the bulldozer was scheduled, I was ready. The big yellow cat came rumbling down the main road at 7:03 a.m. I walked up to the operator, handed him my certified survey, my deed, and the temporary restraining order issued by the county judge the day before. He took one look at the court seal, called his boss, and then saw Deputy Rex Marshall's cruiser pull up behind his machine. You're free to leave, gentlemen, Rex said, but if you proceed onto this property, you'll be arrested. The whole thing took maybe 10 minutes. Then Cassandra's black SUV came screeching down the road. She jumped out, trembling with fury. What the hell do you think you're doing? She shrieked. Protecting my property, I replied calmly. She turned to the deputy. This is a civil matter. Rex just shook his head. Ma'am, he has a court order. If you try to build, it's contempt. That's criminal. I handed her a copy of the TRO. You've been served, Cassandra. Bring your lawyer to the hearing. After she sped away, I pulled out 15 feet of heavy-gauge steel chain and a navy-grade padlock, the kind you need an angle grinder to cut, and locked the road. It made a beautiful, satisfying clack. But Cassandra didn't stop. For hours later, my trail camera caught her, her lawyer, and another board member standing at the chain. The lawyer pulls out a huge set of bolt cutters. The audio caught Cassandra's voice, tight with panic. Just cut it, Howard. He can't stop all of us. The lawyer puts his weight into the cutters. Nothing. He tries again. The handles actually bend. What kind of lock is this? He muttered. That's when I stepped out from the woods, having watched the whole scene on my remote monitor. Military grade, I said, leaning against a pine tree. You'll need my permission or an angle grinder. Which do you have? They turned white. The HOA filed a countersuit and started the harassment. A $500 monthly fine, hate mail, keying my truck, throwing garbage on my driveway. They even got a county commissioner, who just happened to be receiving large campaign donations from Cassandra, to issue a fake violation notice claiming my private road was a public right-of-way. I just kept documenting every single thing. The real game changer came when Veronica and I teamed up with that reporter, Clayton Hollis. Clayton exposed the whole scheme. The inflated $80,000 doc contract awarded to the commissioner's nephew, the campaign donations, the fake violation notice. The local news picked up the story. I looked right into the camera and said, the HOA calls me selfish. I call them fraudulent. They sold homes, promising an amenity they didn't legally own. I'm not the villain here. I'm the guy who actually owns the land. The final nail in Cassandra's coffin came from the title insurance company. They issued a formal title defect notice to all 250 homeowners. No easement exists. The claims made by the HOA are materially misleading. The homeowners realized they had been lied to, their property values were at risk, and their only recourse was to sue the HOA board itself. At the emergency meeting, Cassandra tried to ask for a $2,000 special assessment to fund the legal fight, and the members absolutely turned on her. One after another, the board members resigned, leaving her alone, trembling, holding a useless gavel. At the final court hearing, Cassandra's new lawyer argued for equity, the fairness of letting 250 families keep using the lake. My attorney, Veronica, simply showed the judge my survey, my deed, the tax records, and then she played the trail camera video of the bolt cutter attempt. The judge, an iron lady named Justice O'Connell, put down her glasses and looked at Cassandra's lawyer. Counselor, you are asking this court to fix your client's fraud by taking Mr. Davison's private property. Do you have any legal basis for that? The lawyer could only mumble, Not at this time, Your Honor. Justice O'Connell picked up her gavel. Mr. Davison owns the land. There is no easement. The HOA knew it lacked legal access and proceeded anyway. Injunction granted. The gavel came down with a decisive crack. She ordered the HOA to pay my attorney's fees of $38,500 within 30 days. Cassandra put her head in her hands. A week later, they settled the rest of the case. $150,000 settlement, a public apology posted on their website, and a permanent, recorded notice on all 250 deeds stating, no lake access easement exists. Cassandra resigned the next morning. I could have walked away rich and kept the chain locked forever. But I didn't. I used the settlement money to establish the Whisperwood Conservation Fund, dedicated to protecting the lake's water quality. I endowed a scholarship for local kids going into surveying and engineering. And I drafted something called the Community Access License, a fully revocable agreement with strict rules about trash, noise, and volunteer hours. I kept the power, but I gave the access back on my terms. I wasn't fighting the community. I was fighting the lie. And once the lie was gone, the community and I could finally become neighbors. I learned that day. You have to know your property lines. You have to document everything. And when you win, you don't just win for yourself. You build something better. But here's the open question. I gave them the access back, but it's on a license that I can revoke anytime. If you were me, after all the harassment and slander, would you have ever unlocked that chain? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're fighting your own HOA, remember this. The law protects you, but only if you're willing to use it. Now go protect what's yours.